Welcome back to the front stretch, fueled by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, located behind the Mid-America Center in Council Bluffs. Get to Joe's Karting on 23rd Avenue right there in Council Bluffs. This is Turn 2, and it's fully stocked by the Party Pantry. They're located just off the beaten path in Council Bluffs. They have some great prices on beer, food, fuel, and so much more. Located at 35th and 5th Avenue in Council Bluffs. This is the time to find a gas station that won't break the bank. I noticed gas prices took a nice little hike while I was gone.
Yeah, I actually stopped and filled up my truck, and the first thing out of my mouth was, I'm going to have to mortgage my house.
Yeah.
I mean, here goes a house payment. I can only imagine what it cost you, Andrew, and your Chevy to fill up.
It's probably a little less than your Dodge, but $100 to fill her up from empty is doing terrible for me right now.
For me, it's $120 minimum for me to fill up.
I'm still loving my Ford Ranger and my 18-gallon tank, and it only costs still about $65. But, man alive, I tell you, it's getting hectic out there, so make sure you get over to the Party Pantry. They've got some great prices on gas. Well, this is Turn 2, and as we talked about earlier, we are going to break down Las Vegas Motor Speedway, who did good, who did bad. Let's start with the top 5. Carl Edwards finishes 5th. He gains a couple of places in the points standings because of his finish. I unfortunately, because I was out of the country, I didn't get to see the race, but how did his race go?
He came out, he wasn't bad, he wasn't great, he was just kind of mediocre. I think Andrew would agree. He did kind of come on pretty good there at the end, but it's still early. They're working out the bugs with their program. I think he'll be all right, going forward from here.
Yeah, I feel the exact same. Carl didn't really show like he was going to be a winner the whole day, but he didn't show that he was going to run terrible either.
That team seems to have the ability to, despite them having a 20th place car, Bob Osborne's able to get a handle on that car and keep working on it, and they've got a chemistry between the two that I think only Carl and Bob could have, but they keep working at it. They get the car right, and he always finishes right there where he needs to be up in the chase and to be a consistent contender.
Well, that's the key word right there, Dan. I think it's all about the consistency. I'll say it again. I say it every week. I'll say it again. You can win races, you cannot win races, but if you're second, third, fourth every week, you're going to be in the chase. You're going to be there at the end. You're going to make a run for the title.
The name of the game for the NASCAR points system is consistency. And the term that we always hate hearing is they had a good points day, because some drivers seem to settle for third instead of pushing for first. In this new points system, the modification to it has kind of killed that a little bit, but these guys always seem to have a good points day because they're always got their heads right. Finishing 4th, Ryan Newman, Mr. Rocket. I love to see this guy doing good. He seemed to be having a good run at Las Vegas, but had that tangle with Carl. Now he's able to bounce back with a 4th place finish.
Yeah, Ryan Newman, I seriously think might have been the fastest car by the end of the day besides his car owner / teammate Tony Stewart. They must have figured something out there and got it going with Tony's car to where he could get the win, but Newman came from about 20th position there before the last yellow and got all the way up inside the top 5, and he probably would have been a second-place car if he'd had one more yellow.
Finishes 18th, or starts 18th, finishes 4th. I think that's a good day.
Well, with Steve Addington coming on as Stewart's crew chief and Stewart's owning both, rides, Andrew, what do you think is the chance of Steve Addington telling Tony, it was like, if it's working here, we might want to have Newman and his crew chief maybe in there sharing information right there. Do you think some of Ryan's latest success could be a part of that?
I don't think it's the same. They're both about the same size driver. They're decent drivers. One's just better than the other. I think they both have smart enough crew chiefs that they know. The cars are set up the same. Now we just got to figure out how to tweak them. I think they both just hit the spot and tweaked them correctly, and Stewart just the better driver out of the both.
Ryan was looking fast, though.
It seems that Tony is able to handle a car that's a little bit less hooked up. But Ryan's a great driver. I think he's going to win a championship by the time his career's up with. He's just a great driver. He's had a bit of a rough time the last 3-4 years, but at Stewart-Haas, it's able to focus on him and Tony, and they do work really well together. You can tell that him and Tony share information all the time, that when Ryan's having a good day, they'll run over and say, okay, what are you running? What is this? We are not having any luck. And there's been several times where you've heard these stories where crews will have an absolutely bad day, drivers will have a bad day at practice, and so they'll run over their teammate who maybe had a great practice, and they will completely run his setup for practice 2, just to see if they can get a little bit closer to getting a handle on that car, and I think that's what you're seeing at the Stewart-Haas Racing. Finishing 3rd and taking over the points series, he also led a lap at Las Vegas last weekend. Greg Biffle running that 3M car. We talked about it in last turn. We think he's having a great season. I'm not ready to cash in on Greg Biffle yet. I want to see a little more consistency out of him, but he had a good day. Finished in third. You can't complain.
If I had money, I'd be cashing in on Biffle now. He's looking fast. He looks strong at Vegas. He looks strong at Daytona. He looks strong. I think people see a certain driver will be running 10th, 15th, or 20th, and they'll be like, well, he's not fast. He's not that good. The season is, 36 weeks long. There's no need to come out with, both guns a-blazing. Just pace yourself. And to me, Biffle is looking more mature. He's a better driver. He's running great. I think he'll be fine. So it's exciting to watch and see what he does.
And there's Jimmy running, finishing second. Johnson finishes second. Started sixth. Had a pretty consistent day. Guy qualified pretty well, qualified on sixth place, finishes second. As always, him and Chad Knaus. Chad up on the box is able to get that car right from the beginning, and they're able to get themselves a solid finish.
Jimmy was definitely a fast car all day long, especially at the end. The only thing that happened was Tony decided to somehow get through the gears quicker than everybody else did, which Jimmy said himself after the race, we're going to go back to the shop, and we're going to figure out how he did that so that he doesn't screw up again and lose a race like that.
This is one observation I would like to add in here before we get too far off of that comment. Tony Stewart seems to have his restarts fixed. He had a horrible, I wouldn't say a horrible 2011, but 2010, 2011, he had a really tough time with restarts where he would spin the tires, he would miss a gear, or he would just mistime it. He seems to have his restarts fixed.
Well, there's two things that I noticed. There was twice on the replays where they showed Jimmy Johnson's rear end getting a little sideways where he was spinning the tires on the restarts. But now Tony Stewart just came from a dirt track race that Thursday night prior to Vegas. And he ran good right there. And on the dirt, you can't spin tires. If I go out and spin tires or light them up coming off turn 4, taking the green against Andrew, he's going to blow right by me like I'm parked to an oak tree. That is incredibly important. So I think the fact that, Tony had that little, Tony can drive anything just as well as Jimmy can. But the fact that Tony was on dirt and just had that kind of a pep pick-me-up type experience, I think that really lent itself to the Vegas race. But Tony, by far and away, the best driver the whole day. Just amazing.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that Tony is able to do. He's coming from that dirt track world. He understands grooves and how there, at certain races, there's only so much space that those cars get, and it's not much. And we saw it at Phoenix to where they only had about 2.5 car lengths worth of racing, and then you got up into that less rubbered down area, and you got up into the dirt. And what Tony understands is that if you kind of slide up a little bit and get closer to Jimmy, he's got to pull out a little bit, and he may get into those marbles, so he won't get that good fresh start. Tony, Jimmy, Jeff, Carl, those are the kind of smart things, those little things that they know about, those little tricks to get them the lead and get the win.
I think that's going to help those guys today big time at Bristol.
Yeah.
Bristol, I mean, it's no secret. It's a short track race. The guys, I think, that have some kind of verifiable, not 1 or 2 charity races or not 1 or 2 appearances, but the guys that actually know how to race on dirt tracks, these guys, it's going to be your Jeff Gordon. It's going to be your Tony Stewart, your Carl Edwards, your Clint Boyer. He's hot right now, I think. These are the guys with the dirt track experience that are really going to rock the show at Bristol.
We talked a little bit about it. Tony finishes race taking the checkered flag. 48 points, had a great day. He seemed to dominate all races you'd mentioned earlier, and has I hate to say it, but a great points day as he jumps 8 places and now is in 7th. He's looking strong again.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's looking strong, but with what he did the Thursday night before running the dirt track race, I think that just really helped solidify the run. When you get to a level like NASCAR, I can't personally speak from experience, obviously, but when you get to a level like NASCAR and you can go play with the boys in the dirt and go dirt track racing 2 days, 3 days prior to running your NASCAR race and you're working on those starts and whatnot, I think it was kind of an outlet for him to blow off some steam, kind of regroup a little bit, have fun, and he came back and we saw a little bit of a rejuvenated Tony Stewart.
I think if Stewart had the opportunity and the option, I think he would be just fine running only dirt track races.
Oh, definitely.
Getting out of the NASCAR series, because you could tell that he's kind of got the personality that he doesn't like to cater, do this whole politically correct stuff. He wants to say what he wants to say. He wants to get into arguments. He wants to, he's got his own personality, and I think the NASCAR world kind of hinders that a little bit. So I think if he had the opportunity, he would leave NASCAR and he would go do dirt track racing. And I think that dirt track, the release that he's able to have through the dirt track, I think that helped him win the series last year, and I think that's helping him this year because he's able to go down to his roots and just race with the good old boys. There's no big interviews afterwards. There's no sponsor obligations. There's none of the stuff. It's just you get there at 5, you get your car out, you do a couple practices, you go race. Yep. It's not a 5-day event at the track. So, again, he has a great race. Andrew, what did you see from his race on Sunday?
Again, he started off slow. He really did. I thought Dale Earnhardt Jr. was going to win the race with how strong he came out. What did he lead, over 100 and some laps? Or am I correct? Or
I believe it was 92 laps.
Almost 100 laps.
He was amazing.
And Jr. actually came out swinging, and Stewart looked like he had to work and work and work. Finally, by the end of the day, he went from 5th to 1st in that one lap, and after that it was see you later. You couldn't catch Tony Stewart, just like we saw last year at the end of the season, and I think we're going to see it the whole rest of the season myself.
I think the neatest move I saw, and I can't remember exactly who it was, but somebody had gotten the jump on Tony Stewart, or they passed him on the inside. He falls back to second. They're actually drag racing down the back straightaway. And what you were talking about, Dan, how Tony will move up just a little bit, and Johnson's got to back off the throttle, and it might have been Johnson.
It was
Keselowski. And Tony stays in the throttle, doesn't budge on the outside, and takes the lead. They were making a big deal about here comes Brad coming off the corner. There goes Tony.
He can do that dirt track slide. That's one of his biggest moves, and that helped him win Homestead last year. He's just got an ability to be able to work with the car to where he can get it just right to where he kind of slides the car, but he doesn't lose the so important momentum.
Let me explain it to you about exactly what Tony done right there. Keselowski, when he got in, he went in there harder than they said he went all day, which was his fastest lap. Well, he kind of slid up the track a little bit right there. All Tony did was pinched him down, so when he went in there, he couldn't go in there as hard, because if he'd have slid up, he'd have slid right into the 14 car. So Tony basically pinched him down instead of pinching him up, and basically just took all his momentum away, and then Tony took the lead back.
And when you hear in the race afterwards when somebody says, he didn't give me enough room, that's exactly what they're talking about. Brad could have complained that Tony didn't give him enough room to be able to work with the car to where if it got loose, to be able to hit that line like he should have. Tony pinched him down. He had to back out of the throttle a little bit earlier, and Tony's able to fly by.
When I saw that move with Stewart and Keselowski, that reminded me of Sabine versus Dennis Cook at I-80 Speedway, where Sabine will go to the high side and he'll just drive right by Dennis Cook or any of the other good competitors out there. That was just really neat to watch Tony pull that move.
Now we're going to turn our attention to the race today, Bristol Motor Speedway. This is easily my favorite race, is when we go to these short track races. Bristol's all about saving your tires, saving your brakes, and being patient. The most important thing with Bristol is as soon as the green flag waves right out of either at the beginning of the race or right out of the caution, you got to get to the inside and you got to get as many points as you can, because once everybody settles in, that's when it's incredibly difficult to pass.
I personally think more times than not, now in the past, we've had some really good racers. We've had the Rusty Wallaces, we've had the Jeff Gordons, we've had the Darrell Waltrips out there. But in today's world, I think the guys that have the best shot at winning Bristol, hands down, are the guys with the dirt track experience.
This is Turn 2. It's presented by Party Patriot and Council Bluffs, located at 35th and 5th Avenue. Get to a gas station that won't break the bank. They've got some great prices on food, fuel, and beer, which is the most important thing at a gas station. Stop by today, 35th and 5th Avenue, and get yourself some great prices. It's just off the beaten path. Right around the corner, we're going to talk with Kenny Hansen, race director for Shelby County Speedway, as a part of Turn 3. This is the Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting and Council Bluffs, right here on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.